Hello, this is Ryan from Exponential Bet. In this video, I'm going to play in the background some of the recent betting activity from the 25th of May up until the end of that month. And I'll just give you a snapshot of what I've been doing and some of the activity that I've had with the in-play software. So you'll see some back in, lay bets, multiple back in, multiple laying going on, some races that I've skipped because I've missed the opportunity, while I explain over the top what the velocity line is and the FTG. Now, the FTG is something I've been asked about a lot since my previous video, and I just want to go into more detail about that and how very shortly it will be available for you in an even better format, because really, the things I've been using have just literally been in development. So they're brand new ideas. They're not even named as they're going to be named when it comes to the final production. And the way that they work is the rough format. So there will be a more polished format when it actually comes to the live version of BetMover. So before we get to that, let me just talk about the velocity lines. Now, the velocity lines you can see on the bottom left is the green lines going up and down. Kind of looks like an ECG, and you see that on each horse. Now, what these are telling us, the information it gives, more so here over jumps, because you can see where it's dipped over the jump, but it's the consistent line of velocity, basically the speed of the horse. And the more consistent the line, the less bumpy that line is. And as I said, especially over jumps where you can see that it's, horses that have jumped particularly well, is quite obvious with the velocity line, because the dip in the line will show that the horse hasn't jumped as well as other horses which have had a smoother line. And also the splits tend to correspond with this as well. It'll tell you who's doing better over the split. So that is useful for assessing a horse if you think it's not jumping particularly well and it might be a good lay opportunity. Which, I mean, in this example, the horse number 1 had a particularly dodgy jump. Obviously number 2 there had a particularly dodgy jump, and we've got them on as lay opportunities. If I just wait for the mouse to move. Sorry, I'm doing the audio after the event here. So yeah, they've got them on as lay opportunities. So neither of those horses won, and I was able to identify them as good horses to lay in running, using the velocity line mostly, and the fatigue, which I'll get to in a minute, which is not fatigue, FTG. It's not a good way of explaining what it is, and I'll get to that. But yeah, the velocity line, I also use it with the live video. It's very good with that. I mean, the live video is about 5 seconds behind what I'm looking at here. So if I look across to the live video, and after I've seen a particularly bad dip in the velocity line, it gives me a chance to then look at the video and see how badly that horse has actually jumped over the fence, which is great, because it gives you that sort of heads up. Hang on, these horses aren't jumping great. So you've got the actual visual information from the TV, which is, you can use that as a definitely a gauge. And then you've got the data within BetMover, which is giving you the heads up that these horses aren't doing very well ahead of what the punters are seeing. And that's where the edge comes in, because you're able to then get some value on the lay bet, because a lot of these horses will be well considered. But if the velocity line is up and down, a lot of the time the horse is going to have to put in one hell of a show if it's behind to get up to win. So there's that. Yeah, the velocity line is fantastic, and I will talk about some of the other features that I use alongside the velocity line in some other videos that I've got coming up. Now then, the news on FTG. When this was originally created, it was thought that it would be like a fatigue metric, hence the name FTG. But it's not really a fatigue metric. There's not the best explanation, the best name for it. It's a velocity fluctuation. And the way that it's configured here, that you're seeing in the boss, is that you're seeing the amount of fatigue. I keep saying it, don't I? I'm stuck in that rut. The number that you're looking at is really how much effort. The higher the number, the worse it is. So the horses with the highest number will need the most amount of effort to catch the leader. And that's the best way of explaining that, and that is calculated at each split. So at each split it refreshes and say to catch the leader at the next split, this is the amount of effort, and it orders them to obviously the highest number being the worst. Now what we could do here is some colours and visuals to prompt. There's a lot of numbers to look at on this screen, and Nigel may have spoke about that today, so that's definitely in the pipeline. But also renaming it as well as Velocity Fluctuation, so it'll be named to VF, because it's not fatigue. It's not really. I mean, it's an indication of how much effort the horse is going to need, so there is that relation to the word fatigue, but it's not fatigue, it is a velocity fluctuation. Another thing as well, which is the exciting news, instead of it refreshing at each split, and then you've got you're looking for it to the horse that would need to put in the most to catch the leader up split by split. It's going to run second by second, so it'll just continually increase, and you'll see the horses with the highest velocity fluctuation go up and up over time, and you'll be able to compare that to the velocity line or any other metrics that you have active during the race, and it is very useful because it's exactly the same number I'm looking at here, but instead of it being just sort of constrained to the splits, which I've found useful, but when we discuss the potential of actually releasing it so it would just be second by second with the number increasing, the excitement is really there for me to then use this to lay horses quite early on, because I'll be able to see with the velocity line and the VF exactly which horses are going to, are maybe quite well fancied, but what is not visible on the TV is these horses will need to really put in an extreme shift to catch up. So yeah, I'm excited about the VF to be included, to be fair. I also use the OP, which is the off par, which you're not seeing in these videos because I didn't have it at the end of May. But the off par is incredibly useful because you can see horses that are running above or below, or looking like they're running at the right type of race. So that combined with the velocity fluctuation and the velocity line itself, especially over fences, I find the velocity line invaluable with horses over fences. It's just at a glance you can see which ones are the running the smoothest race, and I'm only really focusing on the top of the market anyway, because that's where most of the money is, and I'm looking to lay at good value or get on horses I think are the standouts, as early as sort of within the last 3 furlongs, really. Realistically, when I'm looking to back a horse, that's when things are starting to really kick off and get to the business end and unfold. But yeah, just to recap, you have the velocity lines there. Hopefully I've given you a bit of an explanation. I'll go into that in more detail. And the FTG will become the VF, which is velocity fluctuation, and that's in the pipeline. I'll be testing that over the weekend and early next week, so hopefully you'll have that next week, and I'll be able to produce some video content demonstrating how useful it actually is. Okay, so as you can see here in the final race, I've used it's got a low FTG on that horse, a nice smooth line on the velocity, and the horse that I backed won, which was the decision making really behind that selection. Alright, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, I hope you find it useful. I'll be back soon with another updated video as explained. Thank you, bye.